at Harvest in Vacaville entitled Man vs. Wild. We're beginning to learn some of the lessons that the children of Israel teach us as we look back to the Old Testament as they were led out from underneath the rule of Pharaoh, going across the wilderness, as we know, toward Canaan or the Promised Land. They were only about a month and a half out from underneath Pharaoh, and they already experienced the waters being rolled back. Then when they walked across on dry ground, as Pharaoh's army came in, and the waters went back, and then they were destroyed. And the Bible says that they began to complain against God. Now, I guess I would have probably been like them. Maybe you wouldn't have been like them, but they began to complain for whatever the reason about being thirsty and about being hungry. The Bible says that they began to look back to Egypt, even though God had already done so much for them, and they were heading toward the wonderful promised land that God had given them. They had what we studied this morning, a moment. They had a moment when the word of the Lord came to them, and it says that they faced the wilderness. You see, up to that point, they were looking back to Egypt. They even went to Moses and Aaron and said, we should have died in the comfort of Egypt. They forgot about being enslaved free. They forgot about being in chains and bonds. They forgot about even being held under the tyrannical rule of Pharaoh. Now they're out there a month and a half away. They're living in freedom, or they thought. But the moment that they understood this, God began to really work with their life through their 40-year journey. This is what they came to understand. That they might have been set free outwardly, but there was still bondage inwardly because they were looking back to their past. They found that they needed to be set free internally, not just externally. And second, that there was wealth to be found in the wilderness, because the wilderness was going to be God's process to produce in them their product. The product that they would become, the men and women of God that God was seed for them to become. God was going to use the tool of choice, the wilderness, to create in them something that being underneath Pharaoh couldn't produce. Living in the land of blessing couldn't produce. But there was wealth found in the wilderness because it was God's process to produce in them His product. You see, God wasn't just preparing the children of Israel to move into a promised land, but He was also preparing them to become a promised people. Today I want you to know that it's men and women all around the world against the wilderness of their life, the ups, the downs, the ins, the outs. But if you go to God, if you look to Him for your provision, He'll give you what you need today. He'll sustain you. If you begin to face toward the wilderness, the journey that God is requiring of you, you will find that there is wealth in the wilderness. There's treasure found in the test. And there's great faith that can be derived from your own personal frustration of going through the process to become the product of God. Join us next Sunday morning at 10 a.m. downtown Vacaville, 310 Parker Street. We continue this series, Man vs. Wild. Remember, God in you is great. God bless you. We love you. I hope to see you soon.